gotten to do a lot of awesome things, and almost all of them scared the crap out of me. Because I can guarantee you, there's somebody out there near you that can help you get there. You just got to know which door to knock on.
That's a lot. But how many times in your life are you going to have an opportunity to fly in an aerobatic airplane, you know?
I know a guy.
Yeah, me too.
So it's amazing to think that I can now be that guy to give someone their first aerobatic ride. The microcosm of what I got to do fundamentally is I got to meet people that love aviation and want to share it. And there's a lot of people out there that don't care if you have a YouTube channel or not.
And in this one, I want to share some ways for you to unlock your flying goals.
A couple things recently inspired me to make a video to end the year. One of them was a comment on the recent video that I published about accelerated stalls in a T6. Yeah, that's what happened. The viewer said he didn't feel like he could relate to what I was doing anymore because it was so awesome, essentially. Like flying a T6. He's just like, I can't see myself ever doing that. So on the surface, okay, fair enough. We'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm talking about accelerated stalls. It doesn't really matter the airplane type. I just put it in the context of a T6 because that is scary how unforgivable that thing is if you make that mistake. But it applies to anything from 172 to a Warrior to any basic GA airplane. If you pull too hard in a turn, you're going to stall the airplane regardless of your airspeed. And that was fundamentally what that was about. So it kind of frustrated me that that person thought that was unrelatable. The second one was my mentor Luke, longtime buddy and aerobatic mentor. Just recently posted something on Instagram that really resonated with me. And the quote was, "If your dreams don't scare you, you're not dreaming big enough." And that hit home because, yeah, I've gotten to do a lot of awesome things, and almost all of them scared the crap out of me before I got into just doing them. I've shared the process, and sometimes you get to see me looking uncomfortable, and that is kind of where I feel like the best learning happens. And in terms of Luke, something that I didn't think was ever going to happen or, relatable was that when we first started aerobatic training, it was the basic stuff, and then we moved up to some advanced stuff, and that was pretty cool. And I just kind of thought, that's great, I'll get to do some aerobatics, I'll get to figure that out. I don't know how I will really be able to do it regularly or anything, but cool. But in the initial briefing, when we were going to start learning about the sportsman sequence and competitive aerobatics and how that looks, I just thought, cool, we'll do this thing, it'll be a one-off, great. But he said,
we can kind of walk through how the sequence will be flown as if it were at a contest in front of judges. My goal would be one day that you would come with me to a contest and you compete.
And I kind of nodded and smiled, but I thought to myself, yeah, whatever, that's ridiculous. Completely unobtainium. I just don't see myself being able to pull that off. It's one thing to be able to do aerobatics at all, which is awesome, and that was a goal that I set and felt like was achievable. But to try to then take it and fly it in a 1 kilometer box in front of judges, it's just, it seemed unrelatable, I gotta admit. Even I felt like that's your world, cool. I can touch it for a minute, but I can't compete. That's insane. But cut to this year, 2023, I just spent the season competing.
So I'm in the hangar at the U.S. Nationals Aerobatic Contest. We captured a lot of awesome content here. This is a 90-second sample.
This is the waivered airspace. Do not proceed to the hold until you have comms with John so he can make sure he's not putting you somewhere where you might have a conflict.
Steven, push to box frequency, contact Chief Judge.
Okay, over to box, Steven. Sky Lord, it's Steven on box frequency.
Domino's Pizza, we deliver. You are cleared in the box. The box yours. Have a wonderful flight, bud.
Thank you. Steven's cleared the box. Normally I'm only Steven when I'm in trouble, but they're calling me Steven, so we're going with that. Insane that I got to do that, but it happened. And I think I sold myself short by not realizing it was possible. Luke knew it, and I should have known better that it is possible. Got to fly 2 competitions, and I set the goal to not get a 0, to keep everything in the box, and to not embarrass myself. I had no aspirations of scoring particularly well, but I actually did okay. I did fairly well. I didn't come last. I got to fly a different type of aircraft in my first competition because this one was snagged.
1 week before my first aerobatic contest, and after months of practice, I got a text telling me my prop was broken in the hangar, and I just kind of wanted to crawl into a hole. Honestly, it was so disappointing and frustrating, all the emotions all at once. But the community came together, and I got a backup airplane to fly here. So I will be flying an RV-8 for the competition this weekend.
So I think I want to just inspire people to identify the thing that you think you would love to do in aviation, regardless of how you would achieve it. Like, don't worry about how right now. Because I can guarantee you, there's somebody out there near you that can help you get there. You just got to know which door to knock on. Whether it's a Luke or a Dennis for me, that, like my early mentor that got me started in tailwheel, that unlocked a world of flying that changed everything for me. And that's honestly where the YouTube channel blew up after I started that. So yes, I've got to do like 50 awesome things, and not everyone's going to get to do that many things if you don't put yourself out there on social media for hundreds of thousands of people to see the uncomfortable experience, because that is what kind of inspired other people to invite me to do things. They wanted to help me learn to fly their thing, or their type of flying, or show me their aircraft or whatever. So yes, I've got to do a lot of different cool things. But anybody can do a few of those things. You won't get to do 50, I'll give you that, probably. But you will get to do 1 or 2 or 3, and, you know, name that thing, that crazy awesome thing that you don't think is possible. Let's name it, identify it, and then figure out later how to do it. Put it in the comments below, and I will read every one of them, and within my little world of resources, maybe I can connect you with somebody, or maybe somebody will see that comment. I don't know, we'll figure out later. Kind of brainstorming on something I might be able to do to help people connect with people that have a cool thing they want to share, and people that want to experience that thing. I don't know, figure that out later, but I was just inspired to try to share the idea that there are doors to knock on. You just gotta knock on them. They're all around you. For me, it was Dennis, 2014. The Super Cub was a pile of dust in the back of a hangar, and I asked him, why isn't that thing flying?
All right, yep, you're good to go. I'm good to go.
And he was like, yeah, it's just has been sitting there. No one's really shown interest lately, and we kind of forgot about it. No one's been doing tailwheel training. I was like, well, can we? And my life changed. Once I started using multiple cameras for debrief, and I captured my entire initial tailwheel training, I really saw how game-changing that was for my flying, and I was able to share it with the community, and that really was when the channel blew up, was sharing my initial tailwheel training in like 2014, so almost 10 years ago. Got the rating, started looking into warbirds, and cut to 2018, I'm flying a T6. It was a progression that happened and got me there through little steps. I hadn't had access to anything tailwheel. I'd always kind of known that that was a cool thing, but, you know, where do you get access? And I kind of didn't look hard enough. Honestly, I'm sure I could have started sooner if I just looked harder. The point is, there is a Dennis out there, I think, for anybody if you just knock on the door. But you gotta have the initiative to go knock on that door.
We got a little bit of a breeze here, so we're losing a bit of the energy that we need to get to the runway, so we're gonna have to add a little bit of power.
So here's a basic idea that anybody can do. We all have to do some type of review. Like in the States, it's called a BFR, I think, biannual flight review, right? Every 2 years, you gotta go with an instructor and do a thing to just refresh yourself. And it's pretty wide open as far as what that needs to look like. The instructor just needs to sign you off. A lot of people just show up in their own airplane or a training school airplane and just do it. Okay, cool. But why not do it in something weird? Have you always wanted to fly in an extra 300 or something like that, or even a T6? Like my buddy Jared will do a BFR in an extra 300 or a T6. So, you know, yeah, it might cost you a little bit extra, but save the budget for a couple $100 hamburgers and put it into a really cool BFR. He's got a couple other cool airplanes there, but he'll sign off your BFR, and you will get to fly something awesome that maybe you thought you would never get to fly. And that might open a door where you're like, you know what, I want to go further with this. I want to go do my tailwheel endorsement, or go ahead and get into aerobatic flying. That might open the door. One aerobatic flight when you do your BFR in an extra 300 might make you realize, I want to go find a way to do this, and then you go find somebody with a Citabria or a decathlon and go do some aerobatic training.
Charlie Golf Alpha Surveillance Service terminates. You're cleared on route. Good day.
Charlie Golf Alpha, thank you. So I just figured I would go VFR today. So here's a case where I'm flying by myself, just moving the airplane to the museum for the winter, and it was kind of a little window where the weather opened up, and it was a spontaneous decision to go, and the seat's empty. If I had a little bit more time, I would have opened up the offer to anybody around that you want to go for a ride, and then when we got there, I could have unloaded the baggage, and we could go for an aerobatic ride before I put the airplane to bed. And honestly, it's an honor and privilege to be able to give somebody their first aerobatic ride, which I can now do, which is crazy that I'm in that position. Never thought that would be a thing.
But man, is this rewarding.
I'm happy to share that. I'm not asking people for gas money. And I've given lots of first aerobatic rides at this point, which is awesome. And I don't film them all. It's just a thing I'm just going to do if I got to go warm up or whatever. I can't do the hardcore stuff necessarily with the passenger because it's not a fun ride, A, and B, I want the aircraft to be configured the way it's going to be for weight and so on, for hammerheads and all that stuff that I'm doing for the competition. But if I need to warm up and just go do some basic stuff, I'm happy to take someone for a ride.
I really do love this stuff.
Yeah, it's fun, man. This is the dream. This is what I want to be a pilot for.
Yeah, it's like you said, you're kind of making your own roller coaster, right?
I'm privileged and honored to be a part of that crowd that can do that, but there are a lot of people that will, and there's a lot of seats that are empty, and people are happy to fill them if you just know who to ask, but you got to put yourself out there. And even if it's not about filling that seat, just finding someone to go have a coffee with and talk about how they got to where they are, or share the goal that you set for yourself. Find a mentor that can help you figure out how to achieve it. So I want to inspire people this year as we end out 2023. Identify that awesome cool thing in aviation that you want to do and don't worry about how. Just put it in the comments below. Is it fly in open cockpit? Is it fly aerobatics? Is it fly in formation? Maybe you want to get a certain rating. Just put it down there. I mean, you can get your multi-engine seaplane rating. That's a thing that you can do. There's places that'll do it. Just put it down there. I will read every single comment personally and either try to help set you up or just give you a fist bump and say, okay, let's work on that. Let's stay in touch about it as you figure it out. It might take a while, but if you don't identify the thing and start working toward it, it's never going to happen. So is it relatable to get to go do aerobatics in a T6? Not exactly, but it's not that unattainable either. So let's find that balance where, yeah, you're not going to get to fly 50 different awesome cool airplanes, you know, like what I've got to do through the YouTube channel, but at the end of the day, it was putting myself out there, being vulnerable to share the learning process of just my initial tailwheel flying back when the channel was small. That's where the kind of introductions and people started reaching out saying, you want to do the type of flying that I do? I'd love to show you bush flying or giant tire flying. So all those things kind of happened because people reached out and just wanted to share. And it wasn't about filming it necessarily. It was just about really being inspired to share. I've met so many awesome people in the community, and all of them are willing to share regardless of if you have a YouTube channel. Like my buddy Osama often gives people rides in his TBM 850. And now he's flying a Phenom 300. And that seat is empty a fair bit when he gets to fly at single pilot. The community is awesome. That's one thing I've learned. So many pilots just want to share awesome flying. And they don't care about gas money. They don't care about who you are. If you're a pilot that shows some interest, they will share it with you. I'm honored to be in that position now where I can share this airplane. I also get to take people for rides in the T6, which is insane that I get to do that. Sometimes I film them, sometimes I don't. Here we go. I'm going to fly the airplane to stay current, and a lot of times the seat's empty. I'm happy to take someone for their first T6 ride. Power set. My first passenger was Brian, who lives in Windsor, and he's seen us flying a bunch of times. And once I was comfortable, I've been flying the airplane long enough, I was like, all right, I'm going to take a passenger. I offered Brian the seat.
Okay, any questions, like I said, you can ask. Just try to avoid talking on top of radio unless it's really important.
Will do.
Okay.
That was my first T6 ride that I got to give, and it was awesome.
I said, you can fly it around, man. You don't have to go straight if you want to. Just make sure you don't hit anybody. Maybe do a little S-turn so we know that there's nobody around, and we'll just do a little look. You're doing a good job holding altitude. You're within plus or minus 100 feet.
And as far as sharing goes, the Flight Chops experience was something I was just getting figured out, but then it kind of got shut down for obvious reasons in 2020.
Don't forget to unplug if you've got your canopy open. That's my mic, never mind. Half, one, half, two. Yeah, I probably couldn't do too many of those.
So Luke is getting the Canadian Aviation Museum crew experience.
This is one of those pinch me moments in my life. This is happening.
Alright, you ready?
It's all you, go ahead. They're 3.5 now. sorry. I just stopped you because you were pulling too much upside down there. And can now the pull keep coming. There you go. That's good.
Great. Pull up.
Alright, nice.
Okay.
Pretty good. So I felt you keep on pulling.
Yeah,
I
I felt that.
just because if we did that, we would have been in a dive too soon.
Yeah.
You want to bleed off the energy, get really slow and light.
Yeah, I gotta get that rhythm.
Yeah, looping is like a energy management exercise because basically the scariest thing to do is to find yourself vertical with a lot of energy.
Right.
Because I can pull the power back and stuff, but there's only so much I can do. If we put ourselves vertical and we're too fast, we can't really do anything, and we're going to go VNE.
Yeah.
So we want to, any vertical maneuvers, you want to get rid of all your energy going up, and then regain it going down.
Okay.
So in a perfect world, you start the loop at 150 and you end the loop at 150.
Alright, I think I'm done with loops though.
Okay. So until the next one, keep your flight shop sharp. And I hope you identified some awesome thing in aviation that you want to do, and we'll figure out how you can get it done. 2024 and beyond.